Hey guys, what's up everyone? Welcome back to a new video. Since a lot of you guys have watched the last Astro JS Tutorial Series and have really liked it, I decided to go ahead and already created the latest Astro Tutorial Series in which we are going to build a fully fledged LinkTree clone. If you are completely new to Astro, I highly recommend you watch the last tutorial series where we have covered all of the fundamentals necessary to get started with the Astro web development or web framework. Now, in this tutorial series, I wanted to build something with you guys that you can actually use for your own cause. So we are going to build a LinkTree clone which allows you to basically put up your links on social media. You have a collection of your most important links. We add a little spin to it. We also add some featured links. That's something that LinkTree does not have. So you can link something like your Discord or your Patreon page or something up top as a featured link. And then we are going to, of course, also add some normal links on it. And finally, we are going to deploy all of that on Netlify so that you can actually share it with your friends. You can also decide if you want to create or purchase a domain so that you have it on your own name. But it's perfectly fine to use the completely free version on Netlify by using the Netlify URL, which you can also modify at least partly so that it looks nicer. You can call it linktree myname.netlify.app or something like this, which is probably enough for most of you guys. But just that you know that there is the option for that. On top of that, we are not only going to code that and hard code the links in. In the first part of this tutorial series, we are going to build out the app using Astro and Tailwind CSS. Now, please note, I'm by no means a designer. I do my best, but if you want to change anything, that's the whole point of this tutorial series. I give you just a template and then you can go ahead and modify it to your own liking. This is the beauty of it. But we are not going to hard code the links in there, and you don't have to always open up VS Code or open up your repository to change links, add new links or delete links. Nope, we are going to also include or integrate Netlify CMS, so you can do that actually through the Netlify CMS admin panel. You can go ahead and add, delete or edit new links. I think that's a pretty cool feature. I didn't actually know that this works because Netlify CMS is originally made, or I think the main purpose of it is to create a blog and create blog posts. But with Astro, we have it really easy to use this functionality to our own cause, which is to create links, edit links and delete links on our LinkTree clone. All right, that's enough for the introduction, guys. Let's dive right in. As you guys already know, and as always, there is a written tutorial that goes along with the video, which I highly recommend you to pull this article up because you will need to copy and paste the code unless you want to type all of the different Tailwind CSS classes in manually, which I not really encourage you to. I will also go ahead and copy and paste code from there, so I leave the link to the article in the video description or in the upper right corner of your screen right now. But if you want to go there manually, you can go to cosec.com, you click on Learn, you click on Web Development, and then you click on Astro. And in here, you will find all of the Astro tutorials that I create. You can just scroll through here and look some other stuff up if you want to, but this is the one we are going to use for this part of the video. So if you open that up, again, you can click in the link in the description below. You can see the whole thing here, and you also have a link to the GitHub repository, of course, where you can clone the finished part 1. So make sure to check out part 1 if you want to download or clone that. And there are also instructions on how to install all the requirements for this to work, which I will not go through, but it's listed here step by step in case you miss any of that. But as you can see, all of the syntax that we're going to use throughout this video can be found in here, and this gets more important if we scroll down a bit and if we are writing longer things like this, or then later on our HTML with Tailwind CSS. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get right started. The first thing we need to do is we need to create a new Astro project, of course, and that's what we are going to do now. So I'm going to just go into my projects folder here, then I'm going into the Astro folder. And by the way, I'm using WSL2 on Windows if you want to know how to get that looking like I have it here. That's what I use for daily development. Make sure to check out the WSL2 tutorial series either on cosec.com or on my YouTube channel. There's also an entire WSL2 course for web development up on Udemy. You will find a link in my own link tree, which I will link in the description below if you're interested in that. Okay, so now we are in here, and then I'm going to add or create a new Astro project by doing npm create Astro at latest. And if you have followed the previous tutorial series where we covered all of the basics, you already know how to do that, of course, but I want to run through step by step. So we are going to do here, let's say, I already have an Astro LinkTree Clone here, Astro LinkTree Clone video. That's how I'm going to call the project now. And then I want to create an empty project. This is important, otherwise we have some files that we just need to delete. Again, doesn't really make sense. Would you like to install npm dependencies? Of course, so just hit enter for yes. Basically everything, almost everything on Astro you can leave per default. It's always setting it up in the best possible way. Except for TypeScript, we are going to use relax there because that will be probably a little bit overwhelming for some of you who don't know TypeScript, so I want to keep it down to a basic level. This should just take a couple of seconds to finish. Usually it's pretty fast. Would you like to initialize a new Git repository? Yes, we want to do that too, so we hit enter. And then for TypeScript, we want to choose relaxed for this project. And there we go, it's already created. Then I cd into this project, and I think it's Astro LinkTree Clone video. There we go. Okay, now I'm inside of the project folder. I clear the screen, and the next thing we want to do directly before continuing is also add Tailwind, the official Tailwind integration for Astro. That's installed by typing npx or npx astro add Tailwind. There we go. Again, leave everything on default. It will automatically create all of the necessary entries in our config files. So I just hit enter here. That should be rather quick. Then we hit enter once again, and we hit enter once again. And if you actually extend that a little bit, you can see the changes that it's going to make to the Astro config MJS file. So this is what we want. We don't want to enter that manually later. Okay, now we have that done. The last thing we are going to do is we are going to install a icon package. So we do npm I and then astro minus icon, and we're just going to use that for our social media icons that we are going to put in the footer of our application. This is the same thing as React icons, if you are familiar with that. That just allows us to quickly access a whole icon library for Twitter symbols or Facebook or whatever. So since we have everything created now, we can go ahead and start to write some code. Now we have added Tailwind, we have installed Astro icon, and now we are going to open up VS Code. So I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller again here, and then I'm going to type code dot inside of the folder, and this should open VS Code out of that. Okay, here we go. So we have our brand new Astro project opened and ready to go. I'm going to close the start screen here. And the first thing we want to do is we want to add some import aliases. Now I'm going to explain to you what that does, but let's open up our TypeScript config.json file. Now this is completely optional, but I found that this is a great way on how to simplify your imports so that you don't always have to type in the full file path or the full folder path if you're importing a component or such. And this makes it really, really easy and convenient to import stuff. So how this works is you just add a comma after extends here, after this extends string. And then we want to add in some compiler options. And of course, GitHub Copilot suggests some stuff here, which we don't need in this case. So we're going to open another object here, and then we say base URL, and then let's put colon, and the base URL is a dot simply. We put a comma behind it, and then we need to specify some path. So we do path, and now GitHub Copilot is actually helping us here, but it's not all correct. So we do path, and then we open another object. And then for components, we want to have the alias, I never know how to pronounce that, components. So we do add components, and this actually needs to be in quotes. So we do add components. Oh, it was in quotes, okay. And then we do components /*, and then we do a colon, and then we specify the folder where we want that to be searched at. So it's source components /star again. Okay, so this is the components folder. Now you will see how that works in a second when we actually do some imports, so don't worry about that right now. And then we do the next thing for assets and so on, and I'm just going to copy and paste that, as I said, from the article to save us some time. We're just gonna copy that in here, and then you can see that we have now aliases to all of the different folders. So add assets automatically leads to dot, which is the base URL, the base root folder here, src assets, src layouts, src pages, public folder, and styles, and so on. And this just allows us to easily import, export stuff. I have it more described in the article. You can also open up the Astro documentation if you want to read more about aliases. And then next up, we are going to create a little bit of a folder structure here so that we have all folders in place that we are going to need. And of course, we need to save that file. So we are going to create a bunch of folders inside of the src folder. So the first folder we are going to create is components. The next folder we are going to create is layouts. And then we're also going to create a new folder called styles. So this is a base layout or a base folder structure, folder tree for a Astro project. Since we are going to create a little bit of a automatically color changing background for our LinkTree clone to make it look a little bit nicer, I went ahead and created a global.css file, which I usually do for new projects. So let's create a new file inside of the styles folder, and we call that global.css. And then I highly encourage you to just copy and paste again the syntax from the article. Or you just type it off if you want, but that's just time consuming, and nobody has time nowadays, so we're going to do it that way. So what we do here is we just change the link color from the links. So if we hover, we have no text decoration, so it's not underlined. Then we change the box model to border box, which helps us to better write Tailwind CSS. And then we add the background to the body, which is a linear gradient that is going to change colors. Of course, you can change these colors if you don't like it, or you can change the background size and so on. And then we need a couple of keyframes for the gradient to work. Don't worry about this at all. You can change the background to whatever you want. You can keep it white. You can change it to a fixed color, whatever. This is just something that I'm going to provide you with because I think it looks quite nice to have a color changing background. Next up, we are going to create a global layout for our application. If you have followed the previous tutorial, you already know about layout. So inside of the layout folder, create a new file called main.layout.astro, and in here add our front matter code fences. And the first thing we want to do is we want to import the styles CSS file. And now you can see the alias in action already. So we do quotes, and instead of typing the path now, so we would do probably styles, and then global CSS. Instead of this, we can just go ahead and we can just do add styles, which will automatically find the styles folder, and we do global CSS. Now, why is this useful? This is useful because if you have more nested folders in here, it doesn't matter how deep you are inside of a folder. As soon as you use the add syntax or the alias, it will automatically find the file and will automatically put all those dots and folder navigations inside of that so that you don't have to search around. And I found that to be really useful. Then we create a title prop here, which we are going to use throughout our application to make sure we are on the correct page title. And then we do Astro props. Now I know you guys hate this when code is copy and pasted, but I'm just gonna do it to save us some time. Otherwise this video gets 3 hours long, which nobody has time for. So I'm going to copy and paste that in from the article under create a layout. So this is the layout we are going to create, and I'm just going to copy and paste the code in, and then I'm going to explain you what it does. I think this is a better approach than you watch me type for ages, and you can just copy and paste it yourself. So what did we do here? We created a default HTML wrapper with a head with some meta information that has the Astro generator in there, which is default for an Astro application and should be on every page as far as I know. We have a favicon in here, which we don't really need. That we leave it in for now because it still shows the Astro logo on our app, which is fine, but you can change that later. You find the favicon SVG in the public folder, so if you want to change that, you can do that later. Just some default meta tags. Then we add the title prop in here for title, so we don't define the page title manually. It will all be dynamically, of course. So in this case, we only have one page, which is our Linktree clone, but in case you add more pages, that would be added dynamically. Then between the body tags, we have some Tailwind CSS. So we just have a wrapper here, a div, where it says that the width of the app is full. We have Flexbox and so on and so forth. And again, another container in here with more Flex and more Tailwind with some responsiveness added in here. Don't worry about this. You can look that up on the Tailwind documentation if you really want to. And then most importantly, we add a slot between the two divs, and this is where our content will get injected later inside of our layout. Okay, make sure to save the file and let's move on. Since I never do any ads, I just throw in a very quick one, the shortest NordVPN advertisement you will ever see. One of our partners is NordVPN. If you want to support this channel and if you need a new VPN provider, you get 65% off a subscription, and you probably get even 3 months free or something if you go to nordvpn.org//COSEC. Then you get a great deal on NordVPN and you support the channel at the same time. I would be very grateful for that. I'll leave the link for you guys in the description below. Back to the video. Let's get back to coding. Now we create a avatar component. So this will be our picture. We put it on top, and this is just how Linktree works. We have a picture up top. So you can either use your own picture or you can download the one that I have provided in the article. It's an Unsplash image that you can download for free. I recommend a 1-to-1 ratio. So I have downloaded the image and I'm going to drag and drop that from my downloads folder into the public folder. And this is where images are supposed to be in a client side or public facing Astro application. At least that's how I use it. So since we have index.astro in place, we can close that for now. We can also close the main layout component since we don't need it right now. Let's create our avatar component. So create a new component in here. So a new file called avatar.astro. And then we are going to again paste some code from the article in here. Now we don't need any front matter for this. And now this is just really some basic Tailwind CSS here. You can see some margin and padding and stuff like this for our avatar. And we give it also a alt attribute here for SEO reasons and call it extra large avatar. And then you can see here that we have a Twitter handle here. So this should lead to your Twitter page. In my case, that's Stefan Rose. If you don't follow me there, do it now. And of course, this is Lenka at Lenka Codes. This is the text, just a placeholder. We call her Lenka. Why not? It's a nice Czech name. And the src for this image is just a / and then avatar, JPEG, or whatever your avatar is named. And if you just do a / in whatever component, it will automatically route to the public folder here where your images should sit. Okay, we're going to save that. And then we're going to go back to the index.astro file. And we are going to import our avatar. And again, we just do import avatar and it will automatically, boom, import it. So great. Then we need to cancel some auto formatting here. We need to wrap that in our main layout. And the way we do that is by simply doing avatar, and we close that up and we hit enter. Control S to save, and boom, there it is. Lenka Codes leading to my own Twitter page. Yeah, just enter your own Twitter handle there, of course. And again, for styling, guys, do whatever you want with that. This is a very basic template for you. Now we have the avatar there and we can move on to our featured cards component. It's sometimes necessary that you run multiple layouts, and I have seen that throughout all of the example apps that are on the astro.build blog or apps that other people build. Almost everyone uses multiple nested layouts. This is just a normal thing to get around some automatic Flexbox sorting, because I have Flexbox enabled here. And if I want to have some components to look a little bit different or be smaller, it's getting kind of tricky with just a single layout. So I'm usually using multiple layouts. Now we create another layout in here, and I always like to call them what they are. So in this case, we're going to work with featured cards. So I'm going to call that just that. So I'm going to call it featured cards layout, use camel casing here, .astro, and we put it inside of our layouts folder. And in here, really not much going on, just going to copy and paste it. Just a div with flex, justify around, and with full, and then we definitely have to put the slot in here, otherwise no content can get injected. So we're going to save this file, and then we are going to create our featured card component inside of the components folder. So create a new file here, call it featured card.astro. And in here we have to actually import some stuff. So we're going to open up the front matter, and the first thing we want to import here is the icon from Astro icons. So we do icon capital I from Astro icon. That's the first thing we need, because we are going to use a icon in those cards. That's for the logo of Discord or Patreon or whatever you want to put in there. And I'm going to show you how Astro icon works in a second in case you want to modify that. But first, let's create a couple of props that we need throughout this card. So we want to dynamically set those things inside of our index file, and we don't always want to go back to the component and change it. That's why what props are for, so that we can change everything at a glance directly inside of the index.astro file. I'm going to show you that in a second. So we create a couple of props. The first one is featured card icon, then comma, featured card title, featured card link equals, not this props, but Astro props. That's it for that. And it's complaining because we haven't used any of these. And again, I'm going to copy and paste a bunch of HTML down below. I recommend you do the same. Now, in here we have a tag, so a link, which holds an href of the featured card link, which is this one. Then we have the icon in here. So this is the how you use the icon, the Astro icons. And in here we use the featured card icon. This makes more sense in a second. And lastly, we have the text in here, which is, or just the title in this case, is the featured card title for our featured cards. Now, Astro icon is a great little library that you can use, same as React icons, and I found this to be very useful. I'm going to quickly pull that over for you guys so that you can see that. So this is the official Astro icon implementation, and this gives you access to a lot of different icons. So how this works is all written in here if you want to read that up. But how I usually do it, I go to Iconify, and then I'm just going to search for, let's say, Twitter, if I want to have a Twitter icon, and then I'm going to choose the one that I like best, so whatever, default Twitter icon. And then this line of code in here, or this, I don't know what it is, a tag, you can just copy that. So it's MDI:Twitter. And if we go back to our application, again, you can find all different kinds of logos in here just for icons instead of importing anything from whatever icon library. I found this to be pretty good, and it's pretty fast. So now we have our featured card component ready. Now we need to go back to index.astro and import both the layout and the card. And to do that, we do import featured cards layout, and we also do import featured card. Boom. So we have both in there. And then we don't want to do the featured cards layout, and in there we are going to create our featured cards. So to create a featured card, we do featured card, and then we need to set the props. So we need to give it the prop values that we have just created inside of our featured cards component. Getting a little bit complicated, right? So we're going to pull this down here, if we can. And I try to make this as easy for you as possible. As you can see, those are our props. So we have featured icon, featured card title, featured card link, and those are the exact props we want to enter here. So we do featured card icon, and this is the icon that I've just showed you. So we just need to paste in the text here. So in this case, it would be MDI Twitter, but it's not Twitter because we are actually using Patreon. So just an example, if you want to use the Twitter logo, Let's actually look at that in a second. Let's just leave it at Twitter. So if we do featured icon, MDI Twitter, then we do featured card title, support us, okay? And then we do featured card link, and that would be, yeah, whatever, Astro build, just an example here. Then we hit save, we open up our LinkTree clone, and boom, something shows up, but there is no text at all. And why is that? Why is there no text? If something is not working and you don't get an error message, it's mostly because of a typo. So it's not featured image, it's featured. So I put the U somewhere wrong, and now we should actually get some text here. And you can see we have a nice Twitter logo, and we have a support us featured card that's lighting up on hover and looks nice and has a link in it and stuff. But since we want to be, since we want to have this to be a real world example, we are actually going to put in, so I would put in the featured card something that is really important to you. So that might be a Udemy course, that might be the link to your Discord, whatever you want to push. In my case, I would like to get more patrons, which I only have 2 of them, which is kind of a shame. So let's do logos.patreon. And then we hit save, and we have the Patreon logo there. Hey, that's thanks to Econify. And the way you find it would be just simply putting in Patreon in the search bar here. And it doesn't show anything. Why doesn't it show anything? Let's try again. I definitely find it here. There it goes. And then you click on the first one, whatever you like, and you can see it's MDI Patreon. I think I choose this one. Probably I choose, which one did I choose? FA brand. I took the red one. So it's logos colon Patreon, because I wanted to have the red one automatically. So that's logos colon Patreon. I'm sorry, I'm coding for way too long already today. So support us, and the way we put the link is clear. It's patreon.com and not astro.build. It's Stefan Rose. If you want to support me on Patreon, let's see if the link actually works. Let's see if I have a Patreon. I do have a Patreon. Look at that. That's me. So if you want to join for $150 per month, would be great. Anyway, let's continue. So I closed that. I think you got it. You know how it works now. Okay, so we have the first featured card. Let's add in another one, and I'm going to just copy and paste that to not waste any more of your time. There we go. We have a second card. Join the community, support us. If you want to go crazy and add a third one, though, you can, because you can add as many as you want, basically. I think you can add as many as you want. They should scale, at least to some degree. On mobile, it gets clunky. So it's designed for 2-3 featured cards at maximum. I try to make it as responsive as possible, so it definitely works on mobile. Yeah, if you want to modify that, feel free. Okay, featured cards are done. Let's move on to the next one, which is our actual Linktree links, the important stuff. Let's go. Let's create a links layout Astro file, because of course we need layouts for everything. Let's close all of this to start fresh. So close. Okay. Let's create a new file. Let's call it links layout Astro. And again, simple stuff in here. But since we want some specific styling or some specific formatting on those links, I added a gap, which is a gap between each link and stuff like this. I just didn't find any other convenient way around this. And actually, if you want to change that, it's really easy and you don't have to search through a bunch of Tailwind classes. Okay, so now that we have our links layout, we can go ahead and create our link component. So we create a new file here called link astro, link.astro. And in here, front matter, and of course we need to create some props for that first. So we create some props in here. We need a link title, at least in my book. Then we need a link description. That's the way I do it. Again, do it however you want it. And then we need a link URL. And it seems like GitHub Copilot still doesn't know Astro, because we are in Astro. We need Astro props and not this.props. So we have a link title, link description, and link URL prop here. Now again, we need some more boring HTML and Tailwind. I'm going to copy and paste again. So here we have a href, of course, which is our link URL prop. Then we do have a link title, which is the title of our link, which has font semi-bold. So I separate this from the link description, and we have a little bit of a space in here, which is this little one. And then we have a span with the link description prop. That is our link description. So all three things are here. Then we have a button that wraps all around that, and some styling. Okay, we are going to save this, and then we are going to close our link.astro file because we don't need it. We can close our links layout astro file too, and back to index.astro. Now we need to do some imports again. So we do import links layout, and I always like to import the layout before the actual component to have it all in one place. Oops, what does it want from me here? Import link. Now I made something wrong. Hold on. Let's try this again. What did I do? Okay, that works. And import link. I pressed enter somewhere wrong, probably. Okay, we have the links layout and we have the link in there. And then we are going to add some links. And where do we want those links? We want those links in the inside of a link layout. Links layout. We do the same as with featured cards, but we put it underneath of it. And then we have our links layout, and inside of our links layout, we do the same as above, basically, or almost the same. We create a link and close that up, and then we put our props in here. So for the title, we do link title. Let me actually just copy and paste those links because I have 3 links already here, and they have some nice emojis in them. And if we hit save, boom, our links are showing up as expected. So we have our links, and they also animate a little bit. So again, this is the link title that refers to the link title in here. They have the link description and the link URL, which refers to all of those values. And so we can create new links completely dynamically. Now again, if you want to create a new link, you just paste it below, and you can do as many links as you want. It will just scale down as far as you want it to be. But I recommend keeping it to a minimum and really just put your most important links here. Again, this is why I created those featured cards, to have the most important links up top, and you still have room for some mediocre importance links. I don't know if that's a word, but you get the idea. Okay, so now that we have that, what we still need is kind of a footer. But before we move on to the footer, guys, this is not how we're going to handle things. This is just temporarily. In the next part of this tutorial series, we are going to integrate Netlify CMS, and all of those links will be automatically created through Netlify CMS. So you have a backend where you can create, delete, or edit links. So we have all of that in place. We have our links. We know how to create new links. We know how to delete links. Deleting links is actually really easy. If you just delete the link and hit save, the link is gone. But let's put it back for now. Okay, we are done with that. Let's create some social links on the bottom of our page to make it look nicer. We create a new component in here called, how do we call it? Social.astro. We need, of course, the Astro icons for that, again, for all of those social media icons. And in here, I'm not going to bore you at all. Just go ahead and copy and paste it and modify it as you wish. I just put a couple of example links in here. And as you can see, there's a bunch of tailwind, and I really don't want to type that out again for you guys because it's just boring. So what it is it's just a div with some flexbox and some icons and links to the social media pages. To the respective social media pages. Should be clear enough. Here are the names of the icons. So if you want to change that, this is where you need to paste in your iconify icon tag, and that's that. And I'm not going to make this dynamic because these are so many links, and I don't really want to have them in my index, my index.astro file, because it just clogs it up. And how often you're going to change social media links, really, right? So we're going to leave that in there. But by all means, if you want a small challenge, go ahead and create some props for that. Create some props for those social media links, and then use props in your index.astro file. It's a good little exercise for you. Okay, so we have the social icons. Of course, we want to save them. And then we also need to import them. So we do import social, enter, and we have it imported. And then we put it below our links layout and before the end of our main layout. Hit save. And our social icons are showing up, and they are even animated and look nice. Cool. Okay, so we have everything in place that we need. Now to the fun part. Deploying all of this to Netlify. This is going to be really easy, don't worry. So we are going to use the Netlify CLI. We have to use the Netlify CLI because we are going to use Netlify CMS in the next part of this tutorial series, which requires us to use Netlify CLI. Now, even you use Netlify CLI, you can still push changes using GitHub Desktop like we have covered in the last tutorial series, in the last Astro tutorial series. But from now on, since we are going to work heavily with Netlify and probably all of our applications will be at some point deployed to Netlify, let's get familiar with the Netlify CLI because this allows us to really quickly deploy changes without using any desktop application, and it's super easy to use. One caveat, you must have GitHub set up in your terminal for this to work, and if you need a tutorial on how to set up GitHub in your WSL2 terminal or whatever, let me know if you need that, otherwise you probably will find it easily on the internet. Okay, let's assume you have GitHub installed, and I think installing GitHub is just apt install GitHub, right? It's pre-configured, pre-installed in WSL2. You might need to log in and authenticate with GitHub, but that's really easy to find out. Let's do npm install netlify -cli -g globally. So we're going to install that. Should just take a bunch of seconds. And once we are done, come on. Once we are done, if you need a fast VPN provider, choose NordVPN. That's maybe speeding up your developing experience. nordvpn.org/cosec. Just saying. Then we do Netlify login. And this prompts you to click on a URL, most likely. And I'm already logged in, so it doesn't prompt me anything. But if you're not logged in, it will prompt you to click on a URL and enter some 6-digit code or something. You'll figure it out. It's super easy. All right, once we have that finished, we need to go ahead and add the official Astro Netlify integration, and that's really easy. We just do npx astro add netlify, and this will take care of all of the configuration file changes, as you can see if I make that a little bit larger for you. So just hit enter to continue, and then it will probably tell you what kind of changes it will make to your astro config mjs file. There we go. So it will automatically add those lines here. It will output it to server, which is the SSR, server-side rendering option. You can opt out of that if you don't want to have it server-sidely rendered. But we actually need to have it server-sidely rendered because when we use Netlify CLI, I think server-side rendering is a requirement, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so it imports Netlify. All of those green lines are what it's going to do, so just hit enter to accept. And if we now look inside of our astro config mjs file, you can see that in fact it entered all of these integrations automatically for us. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is, I have to delete a bunch of projects from Netlify probably after those tutorials. We do Netlify init. Netlify init creates the project on Netlify once you're logged in and authenticated and so on. Now we have a bunch of options here. Do you want to create a Netlify site without a Git repository? No, I will connect this directory with GitHub first. So since we haven't connected it to GitHub yet, you can either choose if you create and deploy the site manually, or if you want to connect this directory to GitHub first. And it's actually something I would recommend you to do. So I just looked into this because last time I already deployed the project to GitHub first before I run Netlify init, so this is also new for me. And I never tried to just create and deploy the site manually, which will just use Netlify CLI, which is also interesting. But you can choose what you want. You can first push it on GitHub and then deploy it via GitHub, or you can just create and deploy the site manually. For now, for probably most people's convenience, I'm going to choose I connect it with GitHub first. And the way we do that is by simply using, if I can find it somewhere, we are going to use GitHub Desktop for that. So, oh, where it is? Sorry for that. There it is. So we have GitHub Desktop here, and I showed you this in the previous tutorial. This is an easy way on how to do it and not mess around with the CLI. So if you use WSL2, you can just do WSL path -w then dot, which shows you the direct Windows translatable path to your repository. Then I copy that, then I go to File and Add Local Repository. I paste that path in here. I click on Add an exception for this directory, and I click on Add Repository. And boom, we have it added. I just give it a initial commit here, commit to master. And then click on Publish Repository. And this one I keep private, but the other one is public. So I'm just gonna do that, Publish Repository. There we go. Should just take a second. And it's on GitHub. Okay, we have it pushed. Now we can again do Netlify init. And now it should recognize that it's on GitHub. Now again, this is completely optional. You can do that however you want it. So we can do connect this directory to an existing Netlify site, or create and configure a new site, which is what we want. Then we do the team name. This is just the team name of me. We can enter a site name if you want to. So you could call it Linktree or my Linktree, or I just leave it on default because I'm gonna delete it again anyway. And then we have the site created. Your build command, this is default Astro build, just hit enter. The deployment folder is the dist folder, hit enter again. No Netlify TOML detected. Would you like to create one with these settings? We say yes, of course. And then we have it published, or we have it actually integrated. We don't have it published yet. So then we clear the screen and we do Netlify build. And once we run Netlify build, it will build our application. Now we have built our project and we are ready to deploy it to Netlify, and that's how we do it. We do Netlify deploy. And we can do, I usually do build -- build, but let's just do Netlify deploy for now and see where that takes us. Takes a couple of seconds. Now it's uploading, it's populating the CDN. Should just take a bunch of seconds. It usually goes really, really quickly, waiting for deploy to go live. And then if we make this a little bit bigger, then we have a draft URL here, and that's actually what we need later on, is the Netlify deploy prod URL to really deploy it. So this is just a draft. If we open that, we can see that this is our LinkTree clone that we just built, and it's live, or actually not live yet, but it's a preview. And then if we do Netlify, what was it, deploy -- prod, then it should push it up to our actual Netlify URL. I'm still doing some of those things for the first time too, so bear with me, please. So now we have it here. This is our actual website URL of the live URL that you can actually pull up and open up. So this is a live URL. This site is online now, and this is our Linktree clone. So now I encourage you guys to go ahead and modify this to your liking as you wish, change the background color and so on and so forth, until we continue with the next part of the series, which will be probably released by the end of this week. Alright guys, that's it for this first part of the Astro LinkTree Clone tutorial series. I really hope you like it. I hope it wasn't too long and too complicated, but I wanted to make sure to cover each and every step so that you are able to successfully code along with me. Now, as I said, in the next part of the tutorial series, we are going to include Netlify CMS, or integrate Netlify CMS to our Astro LinkTree clone, which makes it much easier to dynamically create, edit, and delete new links. Again, this is completely free. You can host that for free, even with Netlify CMS and so on. It's all still completely free unless you decide to buy a domain name and map that to your Netlify page or something like this. But otherwise, it's entirely and completely free. Again, I'm no designer by no means. go ahead, knock yourself out, make that app nicer. If you do make that app nicer and if you're actually going to use it, please tag me at Stefan Rose on Twitter and share it with me and our community so that they can get some inspiration from that. Please let me know what you think about this part of the new Astro JS tutorial series below. What else you want to learn in terms of Astro, and I'm trying to finish up that video tomorrow and release it as well. The article is already up on the website for part 2, so make sure to check that out if you want to directly dive in. Otherwise, I'll hope to see you back in the next one. And again, there is like 95% of the people who are watching my channel are not subscribed yet, so it would be really helpful if we get that number below 90%. So that we actually can get some subs up. Okay, thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you back in the next one. Until then.